Welcome back to Legacy Labs. Today I want to talk about chemistry and why that's not enough sometimes. And I want to be clear because chemistry is a real thing, and that's exactly why this pattern is so frustrating. Because two people can like each other, the attraction can be obvious, the energy can feel different, the connection can feel like it has something, and still it might not ever stabilize. And that doesn't always mean that the feeling was fake. Sometimes the chemistry is real, but the timing can't hold it. Chemistry creates possibility, timing tests structure. A lot of people use chemistry as proof that something should work, but chemistry only answers one question: do we feel something? Timing asks a different question: can this feeling enter a life structure that can actually hold it? So, the service problem. So, when a connection doesn't work, people usually reach for familiar explanations. Maybe they weren't interested, maybe someone was emotionally unavailable, maybe the attraction was one sided, maybe someone got scared. Maybe the communication was bad. Maybe the vibe was not as strong as it seemed. And any of those can be true, but there's a different possibility. The chemistry may have been real, but the timing just may have been structurally misaligned. And that's where people get stuck because chemistry feels like evidence. It makes the connection feel meaningful. It makes the potential feel obvious, but potential is not the same as structure. A connection can feel strong and still not have a container. That doesn't mean that the feeling is meaningless. It means that the feeling has to be read inside the life conditions around it. So the false fix. So the false fix is trying to make chemistry do structural work. People feel the connection, they assume the connect. People feel the connection, and they assume that the connection should solve the timing problem. So they text more, they explain more, they plan more, they wait longer, analyze response times, and interpret every single shift. We've all been there. They accept inconsistency because the connection feels rare. They start treating potential like evidence, and that's where the pattern gets dangerous. Chemistry becomes the reason they ignore the structure. The feeling can be real, but the container may not be ready. And that's the part people usually don't want to face because it's easier to believe that the spark will eventually organize the system. But a spark is not a system. Attraction is not capacity, intensity is not rhythm, and potential is not structure. So structural break. So structural break happens between activation and integration. Activation is the spark, the first conversations, the curiosity, the attraction, the sense that something could be here. Integration is when the connection has to enter real life. So schedules, work pressure, distance, emotional bandwidth, past relationship residue, family obligations, mental load, readiness, capacity, and existing commitments. A connection can be activated by chemistry, but integration requires timing. That is why something can feel strong at first and still wobble once it has to become consistent. The strongest moment does not always reveal the truth. Sometimes the truth shows up after the strongest moment, when real life returns and the connection has to become a rhythm instead of just excitement. So the phase mismatch. Sometimes the issue is not villain behavior. Sometimes it's just a phase mismatch. One person is ready to build, the other person is only ready to explore. One person wants consistency, while the other only has capacity for intensity. One person is available in conversation, but unavailable in scheduling. One person wants the feeling, while the other is not ready for the responsibility attached to that feeling. That distinction matters. Desire is a signal, readiness is structure. Someone can want the connection and still not be able to hold it. Someone can enjoy the chemistry and still not be ready for the rhythm required after that chemistry. That does not make inconsistency harmless, but it changes the diagnosis. The issue may not be that nothing is there. The issue may be that what is there cannot stabilize inside the current structure. So chemistry creates possibility. Chemistry can open a door. It can create attraction, curiosity, play, recognition, tension, and emotional interest. But chemistry cannot build the room. Timing tests whether the possibility can survive contact in real life. Can the connection survive a busy week? Can it survive a delayed response? Can it survive different communication rhythms? Can it survive unclear expectations? Can it survive the gap between desire and behavior? That is where you learn what the connection can actually hold, not just what it feels like in the best moment or when the conversation is flowing or when the attraction is high. You learn the structure through the pattern. You learn the structure through the pattern after the spark. That is where chemistry either becomes rhythm or turns into confusion. So why the timing feels personal. So timing problems feel personal because they show up through behavior. Someone pulls back, someone gets inconsistent, someone delays, someone avoids a direct conversation, someone keeps the door open without walking through it. Someone acts interested but doesn't create movement. From the inside, it can feel like rejection. It can feel like emotional whiplash, and sometimes it is rejection. Sometimes the person really is not choosing the connection, but sometimes the person is not rejecting the connection as much as failing to integrate it. That doesn't excuse the behavior, but it clarifies the structure. The impact is still real. You still have to deal with the inconsistency. You still have to read the pattern. You still have to decide whether the connection is actually holding or whether it's only staying alive through potential. So here's the narrative architecture read. So from a narrative architecture view, chemistry is not the whole system. Chemistry is just part of the pulse. So the pulse is the emotional baseline of the connection. So the attraction, energy, recognition, and interest that makes something feel possible. A strong pulse means a strong pulse means something is moving, but it doesn't automatically mean the system is stable. So pressure. Pressure is what tests the connection. So distance, busy schedules, unclear intentions, different expectations, past wounds, and public commitment all reveal what the connection can actually hold. Rhythm. So rhythm is the movement pattern between people. One person moves quickly, one person moves slowly. One person needs regular contact, one person needs space. One person clarifies through conversation, one person clarifies through time. When those rhythms collide without awareness, chemistry turns into confusion. Inheritance. So inheritance is everything each person brings into the connection. So past relationships, family patterns, culture, heartbreak, rejection, survival habits, and old definitions of safety. A connection is never just two people meeting. It's two histories trying to coordinate. Motif, the repeated pattern. So the same pause, the same uncertainty, the same intense moments followed by distance, the same return after silence, the same mismatch between words and movement. When the motif repeats, the issue is no longer random. And then memory. So memory is what the connection begins to remember. If the early pattern is inconsistency, the connection remembers inconsistency. If the early pattern is clarity, the connection remembers clarity. If the early pattern is excitement followed by confusion, both people learn instability as rhythm. That is how timing problems become memory problems. So the hard part. The hard part is that bad timing doesn't always mean never. Sometimes it means not now, but not now still has consequences. A connection that cannot stabilize now may not survive long enough to become possible later. That's why people romanticize bad timing. It protects the fantasy. Right person, wrong time. Maybe. But if the timing keeps producing confusion, silence, resentment, or instability, that phrase can become a place where people wait instead of reading what's actually happening. So better question is not could this work someday? A better question is what is this connection actually able to hold right now? That question brings the focus back to structure. So here's a simple example. So two people meet, the chemistry feels obvious. The conversation's easy. They laugh. They feel comfortable. Much faster than expected. One person is in a stable season. Their routines are clear. Their emotional bandwidth is available, and they're open to building something consistent. The other person is in transition. Work is unstable. Family demands are high. They recently left a complicated relationship. They like the connection, but their life has no real room for it. At first, chemistry hides the mismatch. Then the structure starts to show. One person wants rhythm, the other can only offer burst. One person reads inconsistency as lack of interest. The other feels pressured by that expectation of consistency. Neither person may be lying, but the system is not holding. Chemistry created possibility, timing revealed capacity. So beyond dating, right? Because this is not just a dating thing. So the pattern is not limited to just romance. In friendships, two people can care about each other but be in different seasons of availability. In business partnerships, two people can have creative chemistry but different bandwidths, risk tolerance, or urgency. In teams, an idea may be strong but fail because the organization is not ready to process it. In family conversations, a truth may be valid, but land badly because the relationship cannot hold it yet. In public discourse, a message can be accurate but rejected because the audience is not ready to receive it. So, across domains, the principle is the same. A strong signal still needs the right container. Chemistry is a signal, timing is part of the container. And without the right container, even a strong signal can collapse. So, a better question We ask different questions in narrative architecture. So a common question is, do we have chemistry? And that's a valid question, but it's not enough. A better question is, can the timing hold what we feel? Ask, what season is each person actually in? What does each person have capacity for? Is a connection building rhythm or only intensity? Does the pattern create clarity or confusion? Is there movement or only reoccurring potential? What does the connection remember so far? Chemistry can tell you what's possible, timing tells you what's available, and those are not the same thing. So the strategy shift. So the old question is, do we feel something? And the better question is, can this feeling enter a structure that can hold it? That's the shift. We're going to stop forcing chemistry to prove timing, and we're going to start reading the pattern. Do not only measure the spark, measure the rhythm after the spark. Do not confuse desire with readiness. Do not confuse intensity with capacity. Do not build a fantasy on inconsistent movement. The goal is not to deny the feeling. The goal is to understand what connection can actually hold. Because meaning breaks when structure fails, and in relationships, meaning breaks when feeling has nowhere stable to live. If you want a diagnostic question in the practical application, you could check out the article. I will link it in the description. Rhythm, readiness, and relationships. Just talks about just the things that we went through, but more with a little bit more detail. Talks about rhythm, timing, and how it's it's not always going to be chemistry. Is not always going to be is going to make the bad structure obvious. So definitely take a look at that. I'll link that in. And again, I'm super excited to do these videos. If you guys have any questions, you want to do any diagnostics on your relationship, organization, AI workflows, DNA patterns, anything like that, reach out. And yeah, I'll see you guys on the next one. I hope you have a great day. Take care.